New twists and turns in the redistricting battle ahead of the midterm elections.
If the House flips to the Democrat Party, that has a huge impact.
Virginia's redistricting fight headed to the U.S. Supreme Court after Democrats filed an emergency appeal on Monday, asking the High Court to let them use a new congressional map that would benefit Democrats after it was struck down just last week.
Right now, we are more than 50-50. Election were held today, we would win the House back.
In Alabama, the Supreme Court has granted the state's request to use a new congressional map that would potentially get rid of 2 predominantly black congressional districts. Critics say redrawing those could potentially weaken minority voting power in the counties.
We think the Republicans may have an advantage of anywhere between 3 to 5 additional seats. That is not enough for them to stop a Democratic blue wave coming this November.
And in Tennessee, Republicans approved a new map that threatens the state's sole Democratic county, splitting it into 3 Republican-leaning districts.
You know, we have a battlefield, a map that favors Republicans. We've got better candidates.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says Democrats are planning to meet on Thursday about a redistricting strategy of their very own. In Washington, I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
Why can't you open the Strait of Hormuz?
You are a war criminal.
That was just the start of the day for Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who's testifying in back-to-back hearings about the Pentagon's whopping $1.5 trillion budget request for 2027, a 44% increase from last year.
The president's budget request reflects the urgency of the moment, as well as positioning our forces for the current and future fight.
Key costs include a $54.6 billion investment in drones, $17.5 billion for the Golden Dome missile defense system, $65 billion for new battleships, and a 7% pay increase for lower enlisted troops. Not included, though, are operational costs for the war in Iran, replenishing munitions, replacing aircraft, and repairing U.S. bases.
We don't know what our future posture is going to be. We don't know how we construct those bases, and we don't know what part our allies or partners could pay into the MILCON cost. And so we don't have a good estimate for that at the time.
The war is also driving up costs for everyday Americans. Inflation is up 3.8% from last April, the highest rate in nearly 3 years, with Americans feeling it the most at the pump.
I'm going to have to work an extra shift, maybe 2 shifts a month, to help pay for my travel plans this summer.
All of this is top of mind for President Trump as he leaves for China today to meet with Xi Jinping, who may need to take a larger diplomatic role in ending the war in Iran. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
I'm for funding it with private funds.
The fight over funding for ICE and Border Patrol is heating up on Capitol Hill. Republicans in the House and Senate are still having a tough time finding a consensus on a reconciliation bill that would fund both agencies because Republican leaders are attaching $1 billion in funding for the new White House ballroom. That's too much for some rank-and-file members who say the ballroom should be privately funded.
It probably is to argue for this general need for Secret Service money, but I think we're good in the bunch last year too, and they beat the bill. I have money in the Secret Service. So there's this town is awash in money.
GOP leaders in both the House and Senate are supporting the funding, saying it will go towards security, not construction. And they're blasting Democrats for failing to support ICE and CBP.
My Democrat colleagues apparently believe that there should be no physical presence at our borders.
Democrats firing back, vowing to delay the funding process as much as possible.
Republicans are forcing Americans to pay for Trump's billionaire ballroom. Americans don't want this ballroom blitz.
But time is running out. President Trump wants the bill on his desk by next month, while DHS officials warn another shutdown could have a big impact on national security.
We are more vulnerable because our adversaries wasn't shut down. In 76 days, while we were fighting with one hand tied behind our back.
The head of the Secret Service is holding a closed-door briefing for Senate Republicans on Tuesday. In Washington, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
The Labor Department published the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, today. It provides information on how inflation is affecting consumer prices. Here's how it works. The CPI is updated every month and shows how prices have changed. The index covers expenses that range from groceries and airfare to restaurant meals. If it feels like something is more expensive, this can show you whether that's true. It's divided into two measurements, headline CPI and core CPI. Headline CPI is the broadest measurement. It includes everything you could possibly spend money on. Core CPI excludes food and energy because both are volatile expenses, meaning prices can go up or down drastically because of sudden supply shocks. The government considers core CPI a steadier measure of price changes. It gives policymakers like the Federal Reserve a better sense of where prices are trending without the shocks of volatile food and energy prices. The April CPI report includes a surge in gasoline prices tied to the war with Iran. That helped push headline inflation 3.8% higher from a year ago. Core CPI only rose 2.8% from a year ago.
Why does everything suddenly feel so expensive? Let's talk about inflation. Inflation is basically when prices go up across the board. That normally happens when people and businesses are spending faster than the economy can keep up, so demand outpaces supply and prices rise. What causes this, you ask? Well, economists don't fully agree. Some say it's too much government spending pumping money into the system. Others blame the Fed for keeping interest rates low for too long, making it cheap to borrow and spend. And some point the finger at big companies gaining monopoly power and raising prices more than they need to. Most economists do agree that a supply shock, such as the disruptions to shipping during the pandemic, can at least temporarily worsen inflation. Either way you feel it, if your pay doesn't rise as fast as prices, you're effectively getting poorer. Rent, groceries, fuel, everything eats up more of your income and there's not as much left for the fun stuff. But not all inflation is measured the same way. You may hear something called core inflation. That's basically inflation with the volatile food and energy categories stripped out. Those prices can jump around a lot more from month to month. So core inflation helps economists to see the underlying trend more clearly. So how do we even know inflation is happening? Governments track thousands of prices, online and in stores, month by month, to see how they're changing. To slow things down, central banks like the Fed often raise interest rates. This makes borrowing more expensive, meaning people spend less and demand cools off. Governments can also step in by cutting spending or increasing taxes. But as you can imagine, these options aren't really crowd favorites. So if your weekly shop feels more expensive lately, it's not just you. Inflation is certainly playing its part.
Down in Bayou La Batterie, high diesel prices are keeping boats tied up at the docks, with many crews saying they simply can't afford to head out.
Some of these boats will burn 500 gallons of diesel fuel in a 24-hour period, and you times that by, what is it today, $4.50 or $4.60, it's not cheap.
That cost can mean tens of thousands of dollars per trip, leaving shrimpers to decide whether the catch is even worth the fuel.
We've got a boat sitting here that came in 60 days ago, just about 2 weeks after the fuel started increasing, and he's been here since. In different circumstances, he would be in Key West right now loading up beautiful pink shrimp, bringing them back to Bayou La Batterie.
And when boats don't go out, the impact doesn't stop at the water.
The grocery store, they don't, get the boat orders because the boats are tied up, some of them. It affects its domino effect.
From seafood processors to restaurants and retailers, businesses across the area are feeling the slowdown.
If we're not able to produce that product, then folks aren't going to be working here. We got to pay our bills.
Industry leaders say the economic impact is significant, stretching far beyond the docks.
For every dollar one of the fishermen produces, it has a $6 effect. It's a 6-to-1 effect. So for every $1 million, the community is losing $6 million. The community, South Alabama, the industry as a whole.
With some boats in the bayou now sitting idle, many shrimpers say heading out just doesn't make financial sense right now.
A lot of these guys they're not going out until diesel fuel comes down, and I can't blame them.
For many in the industry, without any assistance, it's becoming a question of how much longer they can hold on.
How much longer do you think you guys can stand of this?
Not much more of it.
Despite high gas prices, people aren't putting the brakes on traveling. AAA estimates a record 45 million Americans will travel 50 miles or more this Memorial Day weekend, with more than 39 million expected to drive.
I think it would have to take a much higher jump and spike in gas prices in order for people to just stay home altogether if they were already planning to travel.
AAA spokesperson Aixa Diaz says more than 3.6 million people plan to fly over the holiday weekend, even with airfare going up. She says travelers will likely pull back on spending elsewhere.
The people who want to get away this summer or just even over Memorial Day weekend are going to find a way to do it.
As of Monday, the national average for a gallon of regular gas was $4.52. That's about $1.35 more than Memorial Day prices last year, according to AAA. Since the war with Iran began, gas prices have surged more than 50%. Maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has essentially halted, and it's severely impacting oil production around the world.
Every day that goes by, it could add another week to how long it takes to recover. These massive tanks that hold crude oil are draining. Iran's stored oil at sea is draining.
Patrick DeHaan with Gas Buddy says gas prices won't come down until there's more clarity on a possible peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. Without a deal in sight, summer travel could get even more expensive.
The risk is that if we go into peak travel season across the Northern Hemisphere with the Strait of Hormuz holding back nearly 18 million barrels of oil every day, that there could be a super surge in prices as the summer starts to get underway.
Even when a deal is struck, DeHaan says it could take months or even a year to see pre-war prices at the pump again. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
The national average price of a gallon of gas is finally dropping after months of gradual increases. And just today, President Trump proposed suspending the federal gas tax. But 18.4 cents may not feel like much when you're paying double what you're used to. So is this the most expensive gas has ever been in Alabama? We verify. Our sources are the U.S. Energy Information Administration and AAA. Here's what we found. According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of regular unleaded in Alabama today is just over $4. That's about 50 cents less than the national average. But let's go back in time. According to the EIA, gas prices stayed mostly steady from the 1980s until the early 2000s when the Afghanistan war began in response to the 9/11 attacks. Prices rose throughout the early 2000s, peaking in June 2008 at $3.37 per gallon. Prices then went into free fall, and by December that same year, prices were down to just over $1 per gallon as a result of the Great Recession when demand for gas and oil reduced drastically. Prices went back up before peaking again in 2011 at $3.17, rising and falling for the next several years. Prices plummeted again in 2015, dropping to just over $1 due to low crude oil prices, oversupply, and a strong U.S. dollar. Prices steadily rose over the next few years, falling briefly in 2019 before a sharp decline in 2020 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since that last drop, prices have only really gone up, dropping by small increments for short bursts of time before going back up. That increase came to a head in the summer of 2022, when gas prices exceeded $4 per gallon, nearing $6 in some areas, directly following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, igniting a global oil shock. Prices eventually evened out, holding between $2.50 and $3 per gallon, which brings us to today. As we said at the beginning, the average cost of a gallon of gas in Alabama today is just over $4. While this is a notable increase from what has been the norm over the last few years, we have not yet broken the record set in June 2022 when the average gas price in Alabama was $4.63. So, we can verify that no, this is not the most expensive gas has ever been, and experts say some relief is on the way.
The National Federation of Independent Business releasing its Small Business Optimism Index, showing an increase in April, now at 95.9. That index still below its 52-year average. The Uncertainty Index falling 4 points, but stayed well above historical levels. Waymo is recalling nearly 3,800 of its robo-taxis in the U.S. because a self-driving software issue could cause the cars to drive onto flooded roads. Waymo says it has a temporary fix and a full remedy is under development. Waymo operates robo-taxis in California, Texas, Florida, Arizona, and Georgia. And Netflix spent $135 billion on film and TV content over the last decade. The streamer says during the last 10 years, it contributed more than $325 billion to the global economy and created 425,000 jobs on productions. Meanwhile, Netflix offering special coverage of NFL games, streaming its first Christmas Day game back in 2024, with plans to show the first regular season game this September.
We bring those games to the public in an unbelievably economical way. It's $8.99 to join Netflix, and you get this enormous mountain of entertainment that includes, in this case, Christmas Day football.
CJ Papa, Fox News.
age 36, Lauren Regal felt pressure and pain in her pelvis. When it wouldn't go away, she called her doctor.
When I went in for the sonogram the next day, they didn't let me leave. They sent me straight to an oncologist office and they said, you know, you have your ovaries the size of an orange.
Regal was diagnosed with stage 3 endometrial ovarian cancer. 7 days later, she went into surgery, then 126 days of chemotherapy and a full hysterectomy.
Everything just dropped. My world fell apart.
Unlike breast cancer, which has mammograms, and cervical cancer that has pap smears, ovarian cancer has no simple and reliable screening, and symptoms can also be vague, including bloating, pelvic pain, and feeling full quickly.
Those are things most women experience quite often.
Audra Moran with the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance is hoping a new online platform will help develop a screening test, better treatments, and eventually a cure. It has a patient registry where those who have had ovarian or uterine cancer can share their experiences with the disease to researchers and doctors from around the world using AI.
There's just so much valuable research that's happening right now, but too often the pieces aren't connected.
Regal is already sharing data on the registry, hoping it helps.
I am currently no evidence of disease. My scans are good, but it doesn't change the fact that every day you wake up and you know that ovarian cancer will always be with you.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Fast and Furious universe is expanding to streaming. Vin Diesel says Peacock is launching 4 Fast and Furious shows, though Variety and The Hollywood Reporter say only one is currently in active development. The 11th and supposedly final film in the $7 billion franchise, Fast Forever, is due in theaters in 2028.
Mr. Reacher, your record is impressive.
Prime Video certainly thinks so. The streamer has renewed Reacher for a 5th season before season 4 has even premiered. There are some 30 books in the Lee Child series that inspired the show starring Alan Ritchson, so there's plenty of source material. No word on a release date for season 4. The Nordic noir series Black Sands is back for a 2nd and final season. The thriller about revelations in a town with a dark history returns to the Viaplay streaming service Thursday. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Doctor, I can't even tell if any of this is real or it's all just a bad dream.
A mouse having a midlife crisis questions his reality in the animated film Decorado.
But have you ever wondered what lies beyond?
Decorado is an existential anti-fable on the meaning of life and human freedom, but one that is told through animated anthropomorphic animals. And they talk about what it means to live inside of a fake world, but within that set, our real relationships are what can save us.
Arnold, you're obsessed. You need to drop this idea, okay?
The film's inspirations are wide-ranging.
Classic cartoons like Disney films from the 40s and 50s. But then there's also dystopian literature and future dystopia like 1984, The Prisoner, A Happy World, The Truman Show.
The world is a spectacular stage, but it has a cast of deplorable actors.
I use animals because they're universal and they can be understood in every country. I also think that animals and fantasy are important because they allow you to talk about real things from a different kind of world and maybe a more free world.
Sometimes life presents us with extreme worries and problems. And those stressors can make us experience bizarre things.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
pair of suspected arsonists got all the smoke, so to speak, when a parent plans to set a cannabis dispensary on fire blew up right in their faces. Surveillance video from the Pure Cannabis outlet in Monroe, Michigan, shows the suspect using a vehicle to smash their way into the business and then pouring what appeared to be gasoline throughout the store. Moments later, a huge fireball spooked the suspects and caught the clothes of one on fire. The pair then fled, fleet of flaming foot, into the night. Police say the store's sprinkler system took care of the fire before they arrived, and they are searching for suspects, and the case is under investigation. The store's management called the incident amateur hour and later joked on social media that yes, they are still open, and no, they still don't have a drive-through. It didn't look like anyone was on fire, but a pair of California Highway Patrol officers seemed suitably put out after getting doused in red fire retardant from above by a passing CAL FIRE air tanker. CHP Templeton shared the surprise moment and the ruby red aftermath, joking that the aerial tanker decided they were part of the scenery and gave them the, quote, full red carpet treatment. They also said wildfire response is unpredictable, messy, and occasionally stylish. Finally, someone must be red in the face after mistakenly sending a speeding ticket bill to Kit from Knight Rider. Yes, that Knight Rider. The Volo Museum in Illinois received a $50 citation claiming their replica of the famous talking car was spotted speeding in New York City. And while Kit is certainly capable of excessive speeds, the museum says their car has been on display inside the building for years. They believe it's a mistaken identity mix-up, likely linked to someone else's vanity plates, and have requested a hearing about the ticket. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
It's been a century since Route 66 was born, built to pave the way for westward expansion. It runs right through northern Arizona, where remnants of Americana blend in with a more modern era. And as travelers pass through, there's one sight that's just about impossible to miss.
They look up and they see this, what looks like a big white birthday cake on the side of the hill.
It's the Lowell Observatory, founded by astronomer Percival Lowell, who believed there could be life on Mars.
And we know today that we haven't found any intelligent life on Mars, but he built this consciousness that it could be there.
Historians believe Route 66 charted the course for everyday explorers who make the trip to this hub of curiosity along the way.
Definitely agree that there's a life out there. There can't be, mathematically. It has to exist.
Of course there's possible, but, I think we need a lot more science-based to figure that out.
In 1930, an astronomer made history when he looked up to the sky along this route and made a discovery with this telescope.
And the fellow who discovered Pluto, Clyde Tombaugh, was born in Streator, Illinois, not all that far off of Route 66, and then he made his great discovery right here.
And the region's links to space exploration didn't end there. In the 1960s, Apollo astronauts did lunar training northeast of Flagstaff. And just 45 minutes north, NASA scientists used the terrain to test rovers and equipment.
I love the idea of astrotourism. Of course, the Southwest is kind of where you want to go, I suppose.
And there's more extraterrestrial lore in this part of Route 66. In the 1950s, people reported a UFO crash west of here in Kingman, Arizona. And then east of Flagstaff is Meteor Crater, the world's best preserved meteorite impact site. In bigger cities like Amarillo, it's much easier to hop off the interstate and check out those iconic sites, but there's so many small towns along the original Route 66 that are left out. Some business owners tell me tourism ebbs and flows. U.S. Route 66 captured the imagination of dreamers, workers, and travelers across America.
There's so much of American history here on Route 66.
That continued for decades.
Trucking industry increased like 700% between 1939 and 1964. 1964, 80% of people vacationed by automobile.
And travelers needed a stop to fuel up and grab a bite to eat. But when I-40 came along the Texas stretch, business owners say it's like someone flipped a switch.
Think 1939, you got 1 million cars coming through your town in a year. And after the war, that increases, and all of a sudden, it's like somebody turned off the tap.
Some business owners on this part of Route 66 say the 100th anniversary spurs their economy.
Our town was bypassed by I-40, but
You know, there are a lot of people who travel who love to go into the town, meet the people, see the places.
Snuggled off the original route is Dot's Mini Museum in Vega, west of Amarillo. Dot Levitt came to this town after the Second World War. She died years ago, but Dot's trinkets and knickknacks still fill every inch of the museum. Look for the boots in a tree and walk right in. It's never locked.
I always say that the thing that's mostly missing about Dot's Mini Museum is Dot herself, because she was a lot of life and a lot of fun.
Just a few miles west is the midpoint of the Mother Road. It's a time capsule with the big neon sign you can't miss.
Don't get me wrong, it's not that it's not hard, because it's a job. But it's just fun. I get to meet awesome people.
And travelers come from all over the world.
From its inception, it's the people. Always been about the people. That's what gives it that infectious magic and enthusiasm.
So far, I've driven more than 1,000 miles just to get here, and I have more than 360 left to go. And our next stop will learn more about the future. What will the next 100 years look like for the historic Route 66? In Amarillo, Texas, Chelsea Torres, Fox News.
Fox 54 Plus has your news, sports, and weather. Start your evening with Fox 54 at 5:30, delivering the latest headlines and live reports straight from the scene. Then, stay informed with Fox 54 News at 9, featuring your Tennessee Valley certified most accurate weather impact team, tracking everything from tornado threats to traffic delays during severe weather. Fox 54 Sports Extra brings you more of what sports fans crave, with deeper insights, expert analysis, and all the action that matters most. On Fox 54 Plus, you'll also find Alabama politics, plus 24/7 weather radar and real-time forecasts to keep you ahead of the storm. Looking for a quick recap? Don't miss Fox 54 Week in Review, highlighting the biggest stories of the week. Jumpstart your morning with Morning Rush. Fast-paced news updates, featured with uplifting stories from across the globe. Get your entertainment fix with Getting Real, where we break down movie reviews, top 10 lists, and spotlight the newest film. Die Hard fan? Locked On Sports dives deep into the Crimson Tide, the Tigers, college rivalries, and pro action. True Crime Warrior Style? Killer Cases brings you gripping real-life stories that stick with you. Hungry for more? Cooking with Style serves up mouth-watering recipes that are easy to make and impossible to resist. From movie previews before you head to the theater with Take a Look, to must-know headlines from across the region and around the world with In the News. Watch all of these shows on demand and also on the Fox 54 News app. Available on Android and iOS devices. Streaming 24/7.
There's more to Fox 54 Plus with the Locked On Podcast Network. From the Tide to the Tigers, from college teams to pro, the Locked On Podcast Network gives you insights and analysis you just can't find anywhere else.
These kids, they want to play.
And I don't think so. I think it was Chad Baker Mazzara.
Locked On Sports, streaming every day of the week and right here on Fox 54 Plus.
This is what he's going to tell you.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir.
The only thing they could do was kill him.
Be the jury and to find the defendant